Vegas. All right. What is up, Straight Fire Bam? It's me, Jason McIntyre, Straight Fire, for Friday, September 6th. We are recording this just as the Chiefs survive the Baltimore Ravens in a thriller to open the season, 27-20. The Ravens appeared to score a touchdown at the buzzer when Lamar found Isaiah Likely in the back of the end zone, but replay showed his toe, maybe his big toe by less than an inch for sure, was on the out-of-bounds line. No touchdown, game over. Chiefs win 27-20. Hell of a game. A lot of takeaways from this one. I'm sorry to Ravens fans. I'm just going to come out and say it early. I did not think Lamar Jackson had a good game at all. I know that the counting numbers say, oh, he had 273 yards passing and 122 yards rushing. How's that not a good game? Listen, Lamar is the reason they were trailing for most of the game because the deep ball accuracy was so off. Next Gen Stats has posted it. Lamar on passes 20 or more yards, he was 1 of 5. On passes are 15 or more yards, 4 of 11. He was not getting it done. Everything was dink and dunk. Rob pulled the stat that in the first half, Lamar's air yards was less than 1 yard per pass. What? Everything was behind the line of scrimmage. Now, I will say this. Part of the game plan of feeding Justice Hill, who actually had a much better game than Derrick Henry, Justice Hill out of the backfield, 6 catches, 52 yards, took advantage of the Chiefs linebackers who they appear very slow. I'm not going to get out here and call guys out by name, but they were just trailing on everything. Justice Hill, shifty, and he made guys miss. They did try to establish the run early, as you saw Derrick Henry had, I believe, on the first drive alone, he had more carries. I have it in my notes somewhere. Yeah, Derrick Henry had 5 carries on the first drive. Rob G has him in fantasy, so he's all excited. That's more than any Raven running back had in the entire AFC title game. So they made it a point, we're going to run the ball. Lamar had 2 good completions on third down early, and then they basically went in the tank until the fourth quarter. They had the missed field goal. They had Lamar fumble, a failure on fourth down. It wasn't a crisp Ravens team. And I guess you can get excited about the takeaway and the drives late when Lamar's playing catch up. But overall, I thought Kansas City looked very good. We're 5 minutes into the podcast. We haven't even talked about Xavier Worthy, the rookie, the fastest guy at the combine. Nobody feels a need to get him. Oh, he's a straight line runner. He can't do much. Kansas City Chiefs get him. And he gets an end around on his first touch, goes for the score. And then he basically runs a straight line pattern. And they had Pacheco in the flat, which confused the Ravens. And Mahomes easily read it. Untouched touchdown. Worthy had 2 of them. Just a really good night for the Chiefs. Mahomes did have the bad interception. But I think the overarching takeaways, yes, this is a Chiefs offense that looked pretty damn good. Travis Kelce, largely non-existent. 3 catches, 34 yards, which kind of hurt the Taylor Swift aspect. I was expecting T Swift to be on there a lot. I mean, she had a great outfit. The fit was absolute fire. I'm sure you guys saw it coming into the arena. It was all over Instagram. And they barely showed her. A little surprised, maybe because Blake Lively wasn't with her, Blake Lively, obviously gossip girl, yada, yada, yada. But overall, I would say big picture, Chiefs look pretty damn good. The defense has a few issues at linebacker, undeniably. I feel like the secondary didn't get lit up. Now, maybe that's the Lamar accuracy. But Lamar undeniably had Likely open in the end zone for a touchdown. On the next play, he had Zay Flowers wide open for a touchdown and missed him behind him. And it was like, oh, Tarico even had to come down a little hard on Lamar. The deep ball accuracy is a problem. And I will say, Rob, my biggest issue with Lamar Jackson in this game is his desire to, hey, I'm going to win this game for us. I'm going to. So I'm not running out of bounds on quarterback keepers. When I'm scrambling, I'm taking hits. I'm lowering my shoulder. It's like, what are you doing? Listen, you got an entire season ahead of you, and he's taking big shots. I'm talking to you. At some point in the second half, you could tell Lamar's not sliding. I counted 0 slides in the game, and he went out of bounds maybe a couple times. But he's out there inviting contact, and I'm thinking, this is unsustainable. 16 carries, 122 yards, but no carries longer than 16 yards. So it's a lot of running around and a lot of hits, and you lose the game, and it's like, that's unsustainable. Lamar cannot be doing that. It's not. He will not survive the season if he's getting dotted up like that by defenders all season long. So he's got to win from the pocket, and the problem, Rob, is that he couldn't win from the pocket last night. And that ultimately cost the Ravens a game, and the Chiefs, the defending two-time champs, start out 1-0.
Yeah, this was an interesting game because if you are a Lamar Jackson guy, if you're a fan of Lamar, then you saw everything that you love about him. Okay, last season, there were 272 regular season games. One time did a quarterback throw for over 200 and rush for over 100. Lamar, of course, does that opening night tonight. On the flip side, if you don't like Lamar and you're one of those guys who doesn't really believe that his style of play can win big in the postseason, because ultimately that's what it comes down to. This is one game. We all loved watching it, but these two teams specifically are not two teams that we're going to really panic about week 7, week 11, week 14, week 1, because we expect both of them to be there in the postseason. Lamar Jackson, last night, first half, yards per attempt, air yards per attempt, under 1, because it was all dink and dunk behind the line of scrimmage. There was no threat whatsoever of him beating the Chiefs down the field. And on top of that, it feeds into this narrative, which I don't know if it's a narrative, if it's factual, that his style of play is not conducive to playing from behind. In his career, Lamar Jackson, when trailing by at least 10 points at halftime, is 0-5. Now, this game specifically, they were not down 10 points at halftime. I believe they were only down by 3. But the Chiefs scored so quickly in the third quarter, it might as well have been a 10-point deficit because they had the entire second half to go. And when you ask Lamar Jackson to win with his arm only, it's just something that he kind of is always going to leave you wanting more. Case in point, he makes this great scramble out to the pocket to his right, hits Isaiah Likely, who makes a lot of guys miss down the field, and it's a one-possession game. Lamar gets them down the field again. Rashad Bateman makes an incredible catch down the sideline to get him in scoring position. 3 shots at the end zone in the last 19 seconds. He misses an open Isaiah Likely. Yeah. He misses an open Zay Flowers. And then on third down, he hits Likely, but because of the way his momentum was carrying him, he unfortunately lands out of bounds. So the Lamar Jackson game that we saw last night, again, if you like Lamar, he had almost 400 yards of offense by himself against one of the elite defenses in football. I understand why you would like him. Mm-hmm. If you're a guy who's more lukewarm on him at best, kind of where I fall in it, it's another example as to why I'm never going to really feel comfortable with them in the postseason. Rob Parker said it on The Odd Couple on Thursday night on Fox Sports Radio. The Baltimore Ravens are very similar to the Boston Celtics, where they kept winning in the regular season and winning and winning. They were always one of the final 3 or 4 teams there in the NBA, but you weren't going to believe that they could actually win a championship until they won a championship. And that's kind of where I feel about Lamar and this Baltimore Ravens team.
Yeah, I actually like the comparison to James Harden, who was a regular season juggernaut. I mean, there was a time, people forget this, like pre-COVID, maybe 2018, 2019, where it was like, James Harden's the best offensive player since Michael Jordan. He's as good as Jordan was offensively. And you're like, oh, okay, that's a take. And then you see the numbers and he's largely unstoppable. And that's Lamar Jackson in the regular season. And then you get to the playoffs and defenses are tighter. The passing windows are even smaller. The pressure gets to you. You going on the road. Last year they were at home. And everything just adds up and he just keeps up coming up short. It felt to me like he said, man, Casey's got my number. I'm 1-4 against him. I'm winning this effing game. I'm going to win this myself. And he tried to do too much. And he took a lot of hits, and he just missed on a bunch of deep passes. Now, listen, the sky is not falling for Baltimore. I do think they were a little fortunate with the Mahomes interception in the middle of the field, which was abysmal. And then Mahomes had Pacheco drop a touchdown pass on the right sideline. It was like right in the breadbasket. He dropped it. Of course, I have Pacheco in fantasy. Side note, I bet Pacheco over 79.5 total yards, rushing and receiving. And he didn't do a ton in the first half, but you could tell like he's got some juice and bounce and pop, and he's tough. He never stops running. He landed on 78 total yards. It was just unbelievable. Like, honest, like I know people don't like the Vegas knows. Vegas doesn't know anything. Oh, yeah, nothing. So how did they line 79.5 yards for Pacheco? Now you could say, well, Jason, did you see Likely's over under for Isaiah Likely was 1.5 catches? I did not see that. But Vegas was way off on that. Well, I think everybody was. And to me, it looked like Mark Andrews is washed and Isaiah Likely's tight end number one. That offense, to me, is going to be Zay Flowers, number one option. Isaiah Likely, probably number two. And Derrick Henry running the football is number three. And I got to give a shout out to Justice Hill. Rob, if you look at the final play where Lamar's running for his life to throw the pass to Likely, Justice Hill's blocking Chris Jones 1v1.
Yeah, that
And
could
like
not
keeps
have
him in
been the
bounds.
game plan.
That was
When I
unbelievable. Yeah.
when I saw that, I'm like, this is the terrible idea.
But he did a
He
solid
did a
job.
great job.
I mean, and
Yes.
Jones was getting after it, and he must have been absolutely gassed. So yeah, sky not falling for the Ravens, but it's clear they're not as good as they were last year in any capacity. And I mean, next week they're probably going to smash the Ravens. I'm sorry, the Raiders in week 2, probably destroy them. Then they get Dallas, tough-ish matchup. Buffalo, Cincinnati. Like, there's a world where they start 1-3. I don't think Washington's going to be great. The schedule softens up in the middle, and they're ultimately going to win 8 or 9 or 10 games, probably closer to 10. But I just don't see it as good as last year's team. And the defense obviously struggled mightily to stop Mahomes in the first half. Rob, are you surprised by the little usage of Kelsey? I mean, it seems like Rashee Rice, who somehow is supposed to be in trouble with the law, and then there's like he's playing 7 catches, 103 yards. He somehow keeps getting matched up with linebackers over the middle. Andy Reid just schemes up some of the best shit. You know, the Ravens, they kept getting stuck with linebackers on Rashee Rice. And it's like, that's not great. And Rice kind of ate. But I'm a little surprised. Kelsey he didn't look like he had it, man.
No, yeah. And as far as the Ravens go, it would be darn near impossible for them to be better than they were last year. Because as you recall, up until that game in the AFC Championship game, not only were they winning, they were just blowing teams out. Yeah. Like they were an absolute juggernaut last season, and then they played their worst game in the worst time. As far as the Chiefs go, this to me says a hell of a lot more about Patrick Mahomes than it does about Travis Kelce, because old Patrick Mahomes, 2, 3, 4 years ago, would have just found a way to pepper the ball to Travis Kelce, similar to how he used to pepper the ball to Tyreek Hill. He finds a guy he likes. He's going to throw it to him, even if he's covered, because Patrick Mahomes is one of those guys who can throw it into coverage, and he has the kind of arm talent where he can make things happen when he doesn't have to, because he's that good. But what you saw from him starting last season, especially down the home stretch, especially, was if you're going to give me these matchup wins for my guy versus your guy, like the Rashee Rice thing you pointed out, even Chris Collinsworth was saying they've run the same play about 4 different times at different formations. And it's just Rashee Rice isolated against a linebacker. And Rashee Rice is going to win that every time of the day. So if you're not going to stop that, I'm going to keep doing it. If you're going to leave Noah Gray uncovered over the middle of the field, Justin Watson uncovered over the middle of the field, I'm going to throw him the ball. And now I've gotten to a point where we've kind of gotten the dropsies out of our system from last season, where I'm much more confident in the guys we have going out there. Xavier Worthy made the plays when he had opportunities, so he didn't have to really make a point to get Kelsey going like he normally would, because Andy Reid and that offense were just getting his guys open. It didn't matter that, Samaje Perine had almost as many targets as Kelsey. Your guy Isaiah Pacheco had 1 less target than Kelsey. Like, if they're going to give him those opportunities, he's a mature quarterback now, and he doesn't have to always be Superman. He's going to take what you give him.
I did notice the Chiefs' run game, 20 carries, 72 yards. The only play that went longer than 5 yards on the ground was the Worthy end around for the touchdown. Pacheco's longest carry of 15 was 5 yards. 15 carries, the longest was 5. That's a little staggering. But through the air, Rashee Rice had an explosive play. Worthy, obviously, the touchdown. Kelsey had one. Pacheco had one. Justin Watson had one. Like, Mahomes was spreading the ball around. Listen, I'm kind of sick of the Chiefs, but it's easy to watch Mahomes do his magic and dance around. Next week, not bad, Rob. Bengals at Kansas City. That's not a bad week 2 game. That'll be the marquee game at 4:25 on CBS. Um, Chiefs Bengals. Bengals will be coming in 1-0 after the win over the Patriots. And let me segue at this point to best bets, of which there are far too many for week 1 in the NFL and a couple for college.